Hi there, my name's Duncan and I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what some of my students produced in a collaborative composition songwriting task. Just as a quick introduction to this iBook to show you hopefully what your students will also be doing if you follow this particular method that I've worked on with my students. So just quickly recapping, my class of 25 students were divided up into 5 groups, 5 people per group. In each group there was someone who had a strength in drums, someone who had a strength in keyboards, someone who had a strength in guitars, some had a strength in vocals. That was the ideal. Not all the groups actually worked out as well as that, but on the whole it was what it was aiming for. And the task for each of these students in these 5 groups was to produce a song in 5 lessons, but not one song, it was to produce 5 songs. So each group would start off in the first lesson and start writing a song. At the end of that lesson, they had to hand their song over to the next group, and then they would receive the song from another group. And then they would carry on from where that group left off. And they were allowed to do anything to it. They were allowed to change the ideas, massage the ideas, keep them, add to them, subtract from them. And they did that over 5 weeks. And here's an example, which I've got here, of a group that started working on this computer. We're in Logic at the moment, but this session actually started on one of the students' laptops in Garageband, and it opened very nicely in Logic, because of course Logic can open Garageband files. The first group that started in here just came up with this idea here, which they had on the keyboard. They were playing around with xylophones and glockenspiels initially, and so then they recorded this. And believe it or not, that actually took them quite a while to come up with, but that was basically most of what they achieved in their first class. What happened with after that though is that we had a group that came in and then decided to add some piano and some strings to it. And so we ended up with these ideas together. So you can hear there's a little bit of just noodling around, a few ideas in there. But what worked well is that after that we had some groups, some students that came in and in their class, they added these vocals. So we now get all these.
You had me crazy, you should know, you know, you know, you know, you know, boy. You had me dazed and now I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, but...
So that was showing some progress. The group after that then came in and decided to add in some bass, and then also this cool drummer feature that we have inside Garageband and Logic. So what was great about that was the drummers who were feeling a little bit left out suddenly came into their own, be able to create these drum beats. And then we had another group that added these strings in and a few other bits and pieces. Now in amongst all that there was a lot of toing and froing, a lot of writing ideas for verses, coming up with ideas, and so we also then get, I think this is a verse in here as well, which you can hear as well.
Now you got me good.
Yeah, let's jump over to this part. Yeah, so chorus here, let's go here.
But I need you to know what's going on when you're with me, when you're with me. You and I, we can show the others how it can go, baby, just you see.
And so what we have here is a really interesting thing that happened is that the students started off writing a chorus first, and in a completely different group actually wrote and recorded the verse. Different singers you could have heard there. And then one thing that was also great was the drummers and the guitarists and the bass players then discovered that they actually had a really good niche in restructuring the songs, putting things into their appropriate place in terms of verses and choruses and bridges and so on. And so this is an example of just one of the 5 songs that the students created. And it's quite a good example because it shows how everything worked here really nicely in Logic. The key thing about this is they used MIDI as much as possible. So because with using MIDI it meant that they were able to see the ideas, they could look at the notation of it if they needed to see what keys things were in or harmonies. And it also meant that they could change things very, very easily if they wanted to change the chord pattern. The other great thing about Logic and GarageBand is this over the right hand side here, this notes window where they could actually write down all the lyrics, and they were also writing down notes of what they had done in terms of chord progressions and harmonies and things like that there as well. So this is hopefully what your students will be come up with by the end of 4 or 5 lessons together, if they work collaboratively together to write a piece of music that in the end can actually work really, really well.